Both here. We have you for 10 minutes, and I will hand that time to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, and good morning to the Select Committee. Thank you for hearing from myself and Ali Cook this morning on behalf of the New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom Party, who are opposing this gene technology bill. And by way of background, I graduated with a BSc double major in microbiology and biochemistry some years ago. I studied it due to the same hope that Judith Collins still shares, that gene technology is a way forward. However, as the more I researched and learned, the more I understood the serious inherent risks and uncertainties and unknowns, including that each gene typically affects many parts of the body. Genes, proteins, and their controls are complex, and the ways genes, start the video, and the way and the way that the genes behave depends on the environment that they're in. So it's almost impossible to predict long-term harm or outcomes. Hence my career change to law to specialise for nearly 30 years now in complex, novel, multidisciplinary issues and identifying, assessing, managing and avoiding human rights and environmental risks. Ali, my co-presenter, led a petition of over 23,000 New Zealanders seeking an inquiry into the large vax injury outcomes from the gene technology that was imposed on us over the last 3 years, from the toxic spike protein that was part of the mRNA technology. And we refer to that because it's a very good example of how much that can go wrong. But not only that, how difficult it is to get the regime, the regulators, the establishment to recognise that harm. So Ali will talk more on that. Just by way of background, we are opposed on many grounds. The 2000 Royal Commission on Genetic Modification made clear that the great majority of New Zealanders opposed genetic modification, and for a range of very good reasons. There is no evidence of any change in public view about that. There's been no proper consultation. The government has no mandate from the people for such a significant shift in the law. And such a significant shift in risk assessment. The submissions this morning that I've been listening to explain that for a great variety of reasons why we have these genuine concerns. Secondly, the gene technology bill relies on numerous flawed assumptions, including that gene technology is so-called safe and effective, safe and beneficial. Thirdly, it's a paternalistic approach that shows a lack of appreciation for nature, natural solutions, and for our food chain. Fourthly, it ignores the premium that is paid for natural and organic foods over genetically modified foods. Fifthly, it ignores the self-interest of scientists and businesses and their lack of expertise in ethics, their lack of respect and awareness of the public interest. Businesses and scientists cannot be trusted to design ethical products, and we only need to refer to Roundup, the genetic modification of corn, to allow farmers to spray more poison onto the food crop and the obvious problems that has resulted in, the multi-billion-dollar claims in the US rising from this. And of course, the gene technology with the Pfizer vax promoted as safe and effective, even after the coroner ruled that it can kill, and it had killed. And the multiple hospital admissions, the extreme number of vaccine injury claims accepted now by ACC, large number still waiting to be considered by ACC. So there's a huge lack of independence, lack of transparency, lack of accountability of regulators, huge delays, industry's far too slow to respond to red flags. Fourthly, we don't even have expertise or a current competent regulator. They have to create a new regulator. MBIE explained the difficulties of that, setting up the New Zealand Space Authority in 2016. Miles and miles of problems to face. Now, the other very important matter, and I refer to the internal flaws in the bill. Clause 50 of the bill, the regulator must grant mandatory medical authorisation if 2 or more recognised overseas authorities have authorised basically treatment of a class of people. Now, the only exception is in 53, the regulator considers that granting the authorization would result in an imminent risk of death, serious illness, or serious injury to people, or serious damage to the environment. Now, this is an extraordinary, dangerous clause. It facilitates patently extreme and inexcusable unjustified risks. It is bizarre that Parliament is looking at a bill that basically provides for a mandatory approval of genetically modified materials that may not immediately cause imminent risk of death, but, for example, might cause imminent death. If they might cause imminent death, they must be approved if 2 overseas regulators have approved them. It's just extraordinary. And it's double speak to talk about safe gene technology when we know that it's not safe. You've had submitters all week explaining why it's not safe. Your own departments, the Food Safety Authority, is not happy with it. So now I'll turn over to Ali Cook to give some more detail, but the crux is we urge that this bill be shelved. New Zealand already has many natural advantages. Without it, we don't need it. It creates serious risks, and there's been no consultation. This is bad legislation. It must end. If you want to have a proper process, Royal Commission of Inquiry, let's listen to the people, but do not please proceed with this dangerous bill. And Ali will give more detail now.
Here abhorrently tucked away in this bill is mandates an emergency use authorisation for mRNA gene tech, not yet invented, and you're planning for this before Phase 2 Royal Commission of Inquiry findings on the mRNA shot are known. My son is cardiologist diagnosed as mRNA vaccine-induced pericarditis and is ACC accepted after a long fight. He is permanently injured, 6 times in emergency, twice in an ambulance, permanently on a drug called colchicine. MedSafe states that 20,559 reports of serious life-threatening injuries by the COVID-19 vaccine shot are among the 65,000 plus reported injuries, yet only 8% or 1,649 have been approved for claims with ACC to the tune of $11.4 million as of September 2024. We went on from an average of 145,000 per annum in ACC vaccine injury payout to a whopping 3.2 million per annum in 2021. This trend has continued. It's valid for you to know what has happened to the gene tech injured. My son was misdiagnosed by 3 hospitals. Diagnosis took over 2 years. The doctors sent him away saying he had anxiety, whilst they were looking at ECGs now described by multiple cardiologists as barn door pericarditis. 3 hospitals lost his ECGs and blood tests. We launched inquiries at 2 district health boards, and a 3rd lost his referral to a cardiologist. This mRNA gene tech is the most dangerous pharmaceutical in New Zealand history ever by far. Nothing comes close to the number of reported serious injuries to the adverse reaction monitoring. This is a voluntary system when it should be compulsory. When I asked Health New Zealand about presentations at EDs and the under 40s, their chest pain figures were massively increased in 2021. TVNZ asked questions and became interested in covering a story. Then Health New Zealand then reneged on that OIA and said they made a mistake. Not before mainstream media in Australia asked the same questions of New South Wales and Queensland Health, which matched our percentage increase. New Zealand and Australia rolled out the mRNA shot before COVID took hold. It is impossible to hide the shot injuries as COVID related. Health New Zealand's reason for their mistake was that only 2 to 4 health boards collected data before 2023 on chest pain presentations to ED. At best, this is incompetent. At worst, it shows a total lack of pharmacovigilance during the novel gene rollout. OIAs from Pharmac show a 257% increase in the number of patients under 18 taking colchicine, a drug for pericarditis. The mRNA gene tech must be halted pending an inquiry. Biolabs should be made to research what has gone wrong.
We stick to this.
I am sticking to it. It is very important to know what's happened to people who are damaged by this before you go forward with new.
Look, I am the chair, so when I speak, I expect some silence and appreciation of that, and I will determine the scope, whether it's in or out of scope. So I understand you personal situation. It's very emotive, and I appreciate that and I recognise that. But I do please ask that we stick to the gene tech bill. Thank you.
So 1,600 pages of evidence are up on the Parliament website for all to see. No bureaucrat or politician can ever pretend that they didn't know about the vaccine injury deaths. You know the truth, and you have a chance to do something different this time before more young people end up dead or suffering like my son and like the thousands of Kiwis who are still sick and still clogging our health system. Please scrap this gene tech bill.
Thank you very much, Ellie. We've just gone over time, but thank you as well, Sue, for joining us. It's good to have you both here and appreciate your submission to the Health Committee today. Thank you.
Thank you.